Eugene, day after UFC 257, and my first question, of course, is have you heard from Dan? How is he?
Yeah, a little bit from Dan. Like he's as you'd expect after a loss like that. He's not in the most talkative mood, but yeah, we've exchanged we've
Physically, he's okay though.
Physically, he's okay. I imagine that's probably knowing him, what's kind of pissing him off a little bit.
Yeah, it was one of those things. It's a fight game, and it was just last week we were having lunch, and you were telling me about there's no easy fights in the top half dozen.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly it. Like, yeah, top 15 guys is nothing separates them. You know, like I said, if it was the equivalent of a 100-meter sprint between number 1 and number 10 is less than a second difference virtually. It's not any different to the top 15 in the UFC, top 10, top 5. You're separated by nothing. On any particular day, anyone can win, anyone can be champion. That's just how close it is. That's just how it is at the top end.
We would say that a loss like that would be devastating, but then the very next fight, Conor goes out and gets beaten, says that he wants to fight quickly again this year and get some more cage time. Is there a possibility now that would be a good matchup with two guys that had suffered shock defeats, trying to get back in line?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, a lot has to come together for these sort of fights to get made, but that's definitely a possibility. I'm definitely going to, put that out there. Look, like I said, anything can happen. Look what happened on the night. Like, we obviously didn't expect to lose. Conor didn't expect to lose. Like, this game is ruthless. But the flip side of it is this isn't boxing. This is the UFC, and the UFC, the best fight the best, straight away. There's no manoeuvring, and you have to wait 5 years for, Anthony Joshua to fight Tyson Fury. There's none of that stuff. You get in the UFC, you fight the best of the best straight away. And for that reason, one loss doesn't mean anything, okay? In boxing, that's a lot more valuable. They put a lot more, onus on that. But this is MMA. You're fighting the best guys. You're forced to fight the best guys straight away. One loss for Conor, one loss for Dan, doesn't mean anything. Just like Conor's lost before, just like Dan's lost before, just like Dustin's lost before, just like Michael Chandler's lost before.
It's yours now.
You interrupt my interview again, and I'll kick you in the face.
Do you want to go and do that and then come back? Yep, that's cool. I'm going to say something that you're going to disagree and play down, but I've been around the fight camps long enough now to know that the fight camp pre-COVID is different to the fight camp since COVID, and that's just a reality, just the way things are. And there's not much you can do about that. And the people overseas probably don't realise that when you go out of the country, you have to get a token to get back, and Dan's going to be away for 2 months, and when you go over with Israel, you haven't got a token to get back, and it's a big thing, and that's like that, bringing in people for camps and things like that. So things are a lot different, and there's not much that you can do about that now. But Dan has been away twice on his own, and they're the two defeats of his career that we want to try and forget. But we've got another fighter going away and to fight on his own with no support. Are you a wee bit wary about that, or are you going to try and change things like that, or?
Yeah, look, for sure, in an ideal world, we want to optimize everything and to have complete and total, optimization, and we want our coaches and cornermen there. But we're faced with this, predicament. We're faced with this choice. We can no longer do that, like under this environment. Like, do we want to, not fight just because of that, or do we want to just push forward, learn to adapt, tweak the system, find a way around it, find how to get better without our usual cornermen. We just have to work our way through this. That's just the nature of this of what we're doing, and we've decided, as a group, as a team, to push forward. We're not going to stop any fights just because, Tristram can't make it, Mike can't make it, I can't make it. What we are going to do is, for the most part, we can have our usual training environment in New Zealand, and part of the reason that we can have this, our normal training environment, is because of these vouchers and because of how strict we've been with COVID and stuff. So, although it's disadvantaging us a bit compared to the other teams, we also have the advantage of having this wonderful life and being able to train normal, which a lot of the gyms can't have. So, it's tit for tat, like, what are you going to do about it? We've decided to forge forward. We just need to just keep tweaking the system and finding a way to be able to be successful without having, the cornermen and the coaches that we want there. Otherwise, the guys are basically forced with being unemployed and not working, and we don't want that. So, yeah, I mean, I was watched the fight with Tristram and Mike and Andre, and one of my comments was, I don't ordinarily get jealous of Americans, but I was very envious that all the American fighters, they just have their normal corner. Because they don't have to quarantine, they don't have to do anything to leave the country, they don't have to do anything to go into the country. Which is like magnificent from a UFC's perspective for their fighters and for their camps. But we must remember the overall picture there. Look, their country is a mess. So again, it's tit for tat, like, what do you want? You want like a perfect UFC camp or a great country? And at the moment, we'd obviously have a great country. We're just going to just keep tweaking and finding a way to make this successful.
Well, talking about the UFC now, and is there any names? Last time I spoke, you had matchups, but you couldn't name anybody. Are we any closer to finding out who Carlos and Brad and the likes of Kai?
Yeah, but let me also add, Tony, just to what we were talking about before. Again, whenever me and the coaches haven't been out of a corner, I've always had complete faith in the people that I've put in charge. And it's not, when you go away and you lose, that's got nothing to do with, what coach you're with or what cornerman you have. That's on the team. When Dan loses, we all lose. All of us are responsible for that loss. That's just how teams work. He had one of the best coaches in the world with him, George Hickman. He had his other young protege, Nate, who was there, who attended all our trainings, and who we kept well informed of, the strategy and stuff. I had complete faith in them. They had nothing to do with the reason that Dan lost. The reason that Dan lost goes much, much deeper than, who's holding your bucket and who's holding your gum shield. And we'll dive into that and find out the reason why he lost and just start attacking it as usual.
Yeah,
just let me add that. I don't want to, people have to understand that it's very important for people to know that side of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I didn't
I
want
know
to
you
bring
didn't mean
any
anything,
disrespect to anybody that was there.
I know you meant that, but just
Yeah.
for the people at home,
Cool.
Cool. We Dan was prepared, and the opening stanza of that fight, man, I was so excited. Like, The reason I was excited was because, like we put a strategy. We spent hours and hours and hours talking and putting a strategy together, and a lot of these strategies are, to be fair, are really, really complicated in the form that we get them, me and the coaches. Then we break it down to something and that eventually finds a form that another human, particularly a fighter, can understand. You know what I mean? That's the difficult thing. We have all these fantastic ideas and we can see a million things, but it's breaking it down and figuring it out and funneling it down to what we need, and then putting it in a form that can actually be learned in a given certain amount of time. That's the trick to the whole thing. And the reason that me and the coaches got excited, because it may have only been a little while, but everything that we kind of predicted and built our strategy around was happening. And we were very excited. Like, we saw things that we'd been practicing, and we were like, man, this is, when you see something that you predicted will happen, you're like, man, this is going good. Soon Dan's going to do this. He's switching, and then the way we saw it, obviously there's massive bias there, but we saw our plan coming together in just that small little window that we saw, and then unfortunately there was a lapse in concentration there, and what happened. So I have full faith in my coaching team and the strategy that we put together. We just have to address the mistakes that were made.
Well, the last time we spoke, you couldn't name anybody, opponents for the likes of Carlos and Brad, Kai, Shane. You were looking for a fight. Has anything changed on that?
Nah, I'm still waiting for the UFC. Look, the general rule is that the UFC make the announcement first. Obviously, sometimes it gets leaked and stuff, and if it gets like drastically leaked, then I'm like, well, the whole world knows I'm allowed to say something. But as far as those up-and-coming fights, I have to wait for the UFC to announce them. Otherwise, they sometimes give me a slap on the wrist. So I don't have anything more to say. I'm waiting for the UFC to announce these fights. But our end's done. Those contracts are all signed away for those guys. So any day now.
Well, hey, thanks for taking time out, and thanks for explaining about Dan's fight. And it still looks bright on the horizon for him.
Nah, absolutely. Like, yes, a loss is a little bit of a setback, but look, if there's anybody that knows about coming back from losses, it's you can look at Dan's record, and he's a master at doing it. And look, thank you for supporting us. Thank you for supporting Dan on the weekend, and thank you for just having faith in us, all our supporters. And trust me, you watch the Hangman come back from this. It's a challenge that we're all gonna step up to and take on.
Cheers, mate. Catch you again before 259.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Tony.
Hey, thanks, yeah.